We chat a lot. We chat a lot about goals, about training. So I think we have a good sense of where we're at physically and mentally, and we're generally pretty aligned on it. I think that at the end of the day, we're going to be siblings forever and swim run partners for as long as we can be, but we definitely want to make sure that that sibling relationship comes first, I guess. So I think, are pretty honest with each other. I think we want to be having fun during these races. It doesn't make sense to do it if it's not a good time. And so part of having a good time is pushing ourselves and pushing each other, but not to the point where either one of us is not having a good time. And so I think we've both been pretty good about that.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a swim run podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and it's episode 268 of the show. Partners of the Month continues with yet another great story of siblings coming together to do cool stuff. Joining us to talk about their swim run partnership is Team H2O, aka Haley and Hunter Olson. In this conversation, we talked about what it's like to race with your sibling, whether it fills their parents' hearts, with joy that their children
sure
are doing things together.
Yeah.
Racing Ötillö before they were quote unquote ready, and so much more. We've known Hunter for a while, we've known Haley for a while, so it's really great to get them on the show. They did Ötillö in 2023 when we did it. And so it's good. Partners Month, I think, has been really strong this month.
It has been, and it's always, I always just love Partners Month and hearing everyone's stories there. And this is a especially strong team name as well, H2O, with the initials both being H and O. I don't know, kind of knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
And also, this is not the first. Is this the third episode this month where they've all had matching team gear on? Because Sight the Beam had, they have some matching gear, the Twisted Sisters, and now H2O. So it's happening, people.
Finally, it only took 4 years for the memo to get
4 years
read.
of us wearing nonstop Low Tide Boyz, as exemplified in the show this week as well.
Got that new drip. But yeah, this was a great conversation. I think what I really enjoyed about this month's Partners Month theme is we are just getting, again, for us, we talk about swim run all the time. We're always trying to tell the same story a little bit of a different way. And I think this month we've really been able to just see, how people just kind of sort it out, find their way in the sport. And I don't know, it fills me with a lot. I got my partner, so I'm all set. But I think if you're trying to find a partner, these stories should inspire you as to why you should, redouble your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to necessarily be related for it to be a good partnership either.
True.
But it just has been the theme recently.
For sure.
Ötillö Catalina is coming up here. We're excited to be racing that one. If you missed the show last week, 1, go back and listen. There's still time. 2, you can save a cool 10% off any Ötillö branded race. Use the code LTBZ10 to save 10% off your next registration for any Ötillö branded race. And we'll see you out there at a few of them. But first up would be Catalina.
Yeah.
If you're registered, wondering how to train for that, go back a couple more episodes, and we got Coach Nicholas Ramirez of Team Envol to teach you on that.
Mm-hmm. You can go into the future 2 episodes, and we have Lars Vananger doing a course overview, preview.
We're doing a little forecasting about what's happening coming down.
There's been some changes in the course.
Ooh, yes. The sharp-eyed has sent us a note letting us know they have noticed some distances have shifted around. So
I also confirmed that from Lars.
We have also confirmed with Lars, but we'll give you the full skinny on those details there. And if you were a recipient on Swim Run Christmas and you are racing Ötillö, the Swimrun World Championship, don't forget, head on over to lowtideboyz.com. We have a whole resource section with everything that we've ever talked about for Ötillö, which is a lot, I will say. So just hang out on that page. Lots of things to listen to multiple times and review, not just from us. So, it's out there.
It is. It sure is.
But if I was better at science, I would have a great chemistry joke to lead us into this H2O. We'll stop expelling so much O and get right into the Team H2O, Hunter and Haley Olson.
You expel carbon dioxide.
I will note that Chris has corrected me. You are actually spelling oxygen. It's carbon. What is it? Carbon dioxide. So CO2. So we'll see ourselves out of this outro to our conversation with Hunter and Haley Olson.
Very excited with the brother and sister team of Haley and Hunter Olson, Team H2O, which is very clever. Appreciate it. Welcome to the show, guys.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so Hunter, we know you pretty well because at one point when you moved to California from the East Coast, you sent us a text and you're like, hey, I'm coming out. You know, what are you guys doing? We're like, so we came out to a couple swimming practices with us. That was super fun to get to know you. I think you still have a pair of Chippers Frank paddles, which is, at this point, I don't know if you're ever going to give them back. But tell us a little bit about, you know, how you found swim run and how you decided to maybe race with your sister.
Well, I think it kind of goes the other way around. Haley's the one that found it. So Haley was the athlete, and she was like, you know, you should think about doing this with me. So I'll let her take it away.
I'm going to cut you off. I wasn't the athlete. We've always competed together, done the same sports together. We grew up swimming together. We would race like the middle school 5Ks, and like, I feel we ended hand in hand, I think partially to make sure one of us wouldn't outsprint the other on the last like 50 meters or so. But yeah, I think we were always like really compatible in both like athletically and in terms of like our mindset about stuff. So I had gotten into some endurance, started some distance running, and I was doing my first Ironman. And then I heard about swim run, and I texted Hunter and I was like, hey, we have to do this thing. It's this swimming, running, Scandinavian adventure. And he texted back within a few minutes, and he was all on board. So kind of went from there.
I love it.
Wow. I love how your brother was just automatically the first person. I know some siblings are like, that seems like that would be the most horrible experience, tied up together for hours and running and doing physical activity, but it was your first go-to for a partner.
Yeah, actually, I think I thought about it for approximately 30 seconds before I knew he'd be on board and be the perfect swim run partner. So, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, Haley being my older sister, I was always trying to, you know, catch up to her. Like if she was doing something, I wanted to do that and then something a little bit better. So I feel like it was always a competition, and this just seemed perfect where at this point now we can share the experience and we're competing alongside each other instead of competing against each other or anything like that. So I thought that aspect of the sport was going to be really cool, you know, something we could do together and really share that experience.
What do your parents think about this?
They think we're crazy.
But they're so on board. They came out to support us when we did World Champs and showed up with sweatshirts for the whole family, which was really cute. And yeah, they're super into it. And hey, they also get to see two of their kids competing at the same time. So it's really efficient for them as well.
That's a great sales pitch. We should somehow package this up. I love it. And your team name, Team H2O, you have the same initials, HO. So, I mean, and the water, it's just, what a great team name just came into play there.
We should probably give our mom credit for that too. She was excited about the team name.
Yeah.
The matching hoodies are a nice touch. I dare say that maybe this is the year where more of the, you know, quote unquote amateur teams will be properly kitted out. So it's great to see.
Yeah, totally.
And you all did Ötillö in 22 or 23?
23. That was a crazy one.
It was, and that was the Swimrun World Championship something that you saw that and you're like, ooh, I have my sight set on this and let's kind of build the races to get the points? Or did you, I know you were all on the East Coast, so was it Casco Bay that kind of first got you and then you found out about World Champs? How did the journey to World Championship go for Team H2O?
It was, so when I found out about swim run, it was through hearing about Ötillö, and I just,
Okay.
it was like, we have to get to this race at some point. So before we'd even done our first swim run, I think we just had this idea that we wanted to get there, we wanted to experience it, and we expected it to take a lot longer than it did. So I reached out to Hunter in fall of 2022, and so we signed up for Casco in 2023 as our first swim run race. And I know you all were there as well. That was the one with the crazy fog, so it got canceled partway through. And so that was, we were like riding this high of our first swim run, and then all of a sudden it was canceled, and it was still an amazing experience. We were so into it, but we were kind of bummed out, to be honest. And then a month later, because that was back when they allocated the top spots from the different competitions to Worlds, they didn't have a way to allocate Casco, I guess. So they sent out this email at the beginning of August that said, golden ticket opportunity, sign up if you'd be willing to go and compete at Champs in a month. And we were like, well, it wasn't how we expected to get there. But I don't know, when an opportunity lands in your lap, we felt like we could do it. We felt like we could handle it. And so we signed up and then ended up going to Champs as our first real swim run race.
Wow. That is amazing.
How did
Yeah.
you wrap your head around that though? So like you get in and it's like, all right, Hunter,
Let's go.
like how I'm just curious how that conversation went. Like, oh, it's happening now. What?
Well, it was really like 0 to 100. So we were doing some practicing leading up to Casco, really dialing in what gear we had and working on transitions. And then we realized even at Casco how much we still needed to learn and all the small things. We were still using a small pool buoy for Casco.
The
that
horror.
race. Yeah. And so we stepped it up. As soon as we got that golden ticket opportunity, we just had to really hunker down. We had 1 month to,
Spend
a
some
big
money.
ARC order came through pretty quick.
Yes.
But yeah, we had literally 1 month to go from Casco getting canceled halfway through to training up for a world champ. So we had to really cram a lot of serious training into that short period of time, which I don't think many people would take on as a challenge, but we figured we had nothing to lose and anything to gain.
Great outlook. And yeah, I mean, there's certainly, you can kind of conceptualize it like, okay, get out of the swim, start running, but until you actually do it once, twice, 56 times in a race, it's a little bit to kind of learn as you go. And yeah, not having the full experience for Casco, you really had to cram on that. How, I guess you were as prepared as you could be for a 1 month window on racing the world championship, but would love to hear how your experience was out there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of getting ready, I think it was nice that at that point Hunter was still out in the East Coast, so we could train together for that month. We did a bunch of sessions together, really worked the transitions. I think this must have been before Casco rather than in that month in between, but we were doing, I think, our second swim run practice at Walden Pond, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We were floundering around. We didn't have a tether, and we see this other guy like come up on the beach, like decked out in swim run gear, and we're like, "Oh, hey!"
Did he have great hair?
Great hair.
Yeah,
Great
so
hair?
we're like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Do you do swim run?" And he was the coolest guy ever. And then he was like, you might want to try a tether, but just very chill. And then he, hops in the water, and we were like, that was definitely Greg from Boston Wet Sox.
Yes.
And so, we were trying to get tips wherever we could. The tether was definitely a good one.
Shout out Greg, greatest hair in the sport.
Yeah.
Also,
Unrivaled.
swim runners, but nice hair though too.
Yeah. I also actually during that month prep, that was also when I met Addison from Concho Boys, or formerly Concho Boys. I was swimming, and this guy was in the pool next to me with an arc keel, so I had a good sense he was probably a swim runner. So shout out to swim running gear for making people really identifiable out in the wild.
It is. I was running once in Aquatic Park in San Francisco, and I saw an ARC wetsuit. I'm like, oh, like I know 100% this person is just like, there's no other reason that they would have this. So it is very definable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so what we got this advice years ago that the best way to do the World Championship is to do it before you think you're ready for it, because you're never actually going to be ready for it. So mission accomplished for you guys probably to be like, oh, we got a month to like jam up for this thing. But as partners and teammates and siblings, kind of what was the conversation in terms of sort of the head game? Like, what was your strategy going into it? Like, was it more like, hey, let's wait and see, let's let the race come to us? Like, how are you guys thinking about how are you going to communicate your way through this, World Championship?
I think our strategy was just, stay calm and just enjoy the day. We were looking at the cutoff times. Our goal was to finish. So we were just trying to compete in the race as smart as possible, just get to each checkpoint. And I feel like maybe a third of the way through, after maybe one or two checkpoints, we really could relax and we were like, okay, if we just don't have anything bad happen, we're going to be able to finish this. And there was definitely, highs and lows. I mean, the race is a beast. It's so long, but even some of the things that we had heard from other people as being like super challenging, really, we just took it on, and it felt more and more comfortable as we did it. The pig swim was definitely, it looks terrifying, but once you're in the water, you just keep swimming. You get a little bit closer every stroke. So the race was spectacular. We had really good weather that year. Everyone seemed to be in good spirits. It was a great race, and we had a good time.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. We were having so much fun with it. I was singing my little parody to Hunter. I wrote a little ABBA parody, like walking through all the different islands and counting down the, K's to go until we reached Ötillö. And anyway,
Wow.
but I don't know, we were smiling, we were having fun. And yeah, I think once we hit the first couple of cutoffs, it was easier to just sink in and enjoy it.
Yeah, and it sounds like you all over the years and growing up have always kind of had this competitive spirit. So you sort of, I assume, had many training hours together, and you've done your practices at Walden Pond and throughout. So kind of really relying on, many years experience there. And yeah, how was it? We touched on it a little bit earlier, but from competing against each other to with, how did that adjust your relationship throughout the race?
I think we definitely learned how to communicate a lot better. Definitely something where, as siblings, you grow up and you're bickering and all of that. And this was definitely where we had to learn how to, understand each other. Like, I know when Haley's tone of voice, she's hurting. She might say that she's fine, but you can read that. And I think we've had to deal with a lot of adversity, just injuries or something not feeling right just about every race we do, and just really knowing when to push it and when not to. That's something that swim run's pretty unique that way, of just being able to really, relate with your partner, and you have to finish it together. So whatever is the best way of getting to the finish line, you just have to work together on that.
Nice. And being both swimmers, was there a big who's leading the swims? Were we alternating, or did someone just take the bull by the horns on it?
That's Hunter.
Yeah, so Haley's the runner, I'm the swimmer. We both grew up swimming, and Haley took on a lot of running through high school and college and afterwards. So Haley's the lead runner, I'm the lead swimmer. And I think that's a really good balance for the two of us. But one unique thing that we both have in common is every summer we would compete in an open water mile swim. And we were doing this from a young age. I think, Haley, you started when you were 11?
Yeah.
And I started maybe when I was 13. And growing up swimming in a pool, you learn how to swim one way. But when you're competing open water, there are a lot of new variables that you're not comfortable with. Learning how to sight properly, how to swim in a straight line, things that you take for granted in a pool. And we would take it very seriously. And so we got very good at swimming smart open water. So we had a lot of experience just from growing up that we could translate into swim run. And I think that's kind of our hidden strategy is we are always looking for the edge because we're not the fastest swimmers, we're not the fastest runners, but we might be the smartest swimmers, or we can see something that maybe other people weren't seeing. An example I like to talk about is at Mackinac this year when we were competing, everyone would swim pretty far out, 50 yards out into the lake and make a big arc to get back to the land. Haley and I, we just got deep enough where we weren't touching the bottom, and we just cut the edge as close as possible. So we're trying not to swim any longer than we need to, really picking our own line that we're swimming instead of just following the herd or staying on someone's toes. You got to look for like your marker, really trust that you're going the right way instead of assuming that other teams are doing the correct path to get to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great tip because I think people just, oh well, everyone else is going this way, it must be the right way to do it. And the beauty of swim run, there's no specifically designated exit area you have to come out between these cones or anything. It's kind of like generally get out by the flag, just general flag area. So whatever way you want to get there can work. So yeah, I mean, not saving yourself extra 50 yards here and there will definitely add up.
Yeah, and I also think we talk a lot about, one of the swimming tends to be the thing that causes people the most anxiety and stuff. And if that's a variable you can control in terms of not having that be an ordeal, right? Like, got to train up the swim to get it to the point where that becomes sort of a non-issue, almost like not just physically, but emotionally. And it sounds like all of your open water experience is just really, really just tamps down. You see the pig swim, yeah, it looks super far, but whatever, right? It's fine. Did you feel that when you were at Worlds? The first swim's a mile. It's just all right, let's just go start one arm after the next kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable in the water. I'm more intimidated by the runs than the swims. So I think that's an advantage that we have. We like the swim portions.
I think the other nice thing is, and I guess this gets back to the partnership thing and racing with your sibling, I really trust Hunter to know how to swim and swim straight. And so my job is to just duck in behind and go. And so I think that's nice too, where I honestly also get a bit of a mental break on the swims because I'm not sighting. So yeah, the swims are my favorite.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So Chipper usually leads swims, and I did a race. I did Austin last year where I led all the swims. And certainly you're not completely checked out when you're in the back. You want to stay on feet and watch out for people crossing, whatever. But certainly if out of a 10, you're certainly not at an 8 or a 9. And when you're leading, there's just requires you're responsible, right? So Hunter, you're responsible to make sure everything's going in the right direction here. So certainly there's the emotional, almost you can recover a little bit from the demands of racing a big race by being able to tuck in the back and just kind of trust your partner. Which I didn't appreciate that as much until I actually had to do all the work one race. So thank you, Chipper.
Anytime.
For all the years of service.
Of course. And you all we saw you out at Casco this year as well. So, glad to see that the world champs didn't totally break you after a month of prep. Handled it. You still got the bug and going after it. And yeah, I think Casco had some injury situation as well. Or maybe I'm just reliving my own experience.
I'm seeing you, Haley, with KT tape all up in your legs.
No. So. Yeah, I've had just the worst. It's only stupid injuries, and it's 3 days before the race. So 3 days before Worlds, when we did the shakeout swim, I banged my knee on a rock. And I just I already felt so intimidated. And then, again, it was nothing that was going to ruin the race or anything, but just having to, tape up my knee and have to deal with icing and whatnot was not the mindset I wanted to be in. And then before Casco, I was running on the flattest trail ever, managed to just twist my ankle a bit, which normally is fine, but you don't want to go into a race. Nothing like Chipper, your injury, but it still was not ideal. And then, of course, on the second run, I managed to hit it wrong and kind of twist it on Casco. So we shifted our mindset a little bit to just finish the race. And it was fun. We had a great time out there, but we weren't able to push it super hard, I guess. So that was me a second time. But Hunter's the best partner in those circumstances to, not overly pushing. If I had said, I can't do it, he would have been fine, but he was willing to kind of slow it down and read through it. And so it was a fun day. But my plan this year is to not get little stupid injuries before my races.
So like 3 days before the race, that's a rest day for you now?
Yeah, yes. Auto rest day.
Yeah, Haley, you should think about
that. Yes, mark that into the plan next time. And yeah, it being around Partners Month, I've heard a couple, trends, and we kind of have these episodes of people that maybe they have their partner first time or long time partners, but like strong communication. And I've heard a couple times about the adaptability, whether that's holy shit, we're racing the world championship in a month, to, I got an injury or I tweaked something. We need to immediately kind of like re-examine our goals for the race. If yes, your body's not at 100%, you might not be able to achieve the original goal there. How do you all kind of think about communicating that, like, I guess before a race, if possible? How, talk about, hey, we just want to finish Ötillö and be safe, versus, hey, we want to push harder. And then how do you think about leaving space for adapting to things that come up, which things always come up in swim runs?
Yeah, Haley, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I mean, I think that we chat a lot. We chat a lot about goals, about training. So I think we have a good sense of where we're at physically and mentally, and we're generally pretty aligned on it. I think that at the end of the day, we're going to be siblings forever and swim run partners for as long as we can be. But we definitely want to make sure that that sibling relationship comes first, I guess. So I think, are pretty honest with each other. I think we want to be having fun during these races. It doesn't make sense to do it if it's not a good time. And so part of having a good time is pushing ourselves and pushing each other, but not to the point where either one of us is not having a good time. And so I think we've both been pretty good about that. And I don't know, we know each other well enough to know when someone might need to chat a little bit. Or I think we also learned early on at Worlds that we were trying to run with the tether the whole time. And that was just annoying to both of us when it was on some of the scramblier parts. So we learned, okay, let's untether so that we don't start frustrating each other by pulling on the tether or something like that. But yeah, I think we generally just have a really good time when we're swim running together. I don't know if you have anything to add, Hunter.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty cool. So I moved out to California about a year ago. And so now Haley and I aren't training together, but it forces us to communicate given our limitations. So different time zones, totally different climates. It's cold and there's snow on the ground and ice on the East Coast. And out here, we just got through a lot of really heavy rain. So it's, trying to keep up with our training. We have to keep that communication up at all times, but it also makes it really fun that way, where we're on different sides of the country, but we're still talking pretty frequently. And then, discussing what our game plan is for races this year. We're always going to do Casco. That's kind of in our backyard, or at least used to be my backyard, but love it up there in Maine and New England. And then when Catalina came up, it was like, we got to do it. So we've got an East Coast race, a West Coast race, and then I guess we have to do Worlds again too. So we're going back to Sweden for that one. But it'll be fun. We get to travel and experience new places together, and then we can share it through the race and the event and everything that swim run entails.
Well, what I love what I'm hearing is just like how level-headed you guys are, and just how, like, yes, I mean, in many ways, Chipper and I are in a sibling relationship at this point, different moms, and different dads, but in many ways brotherly in our approach to this, and it's like, yeah, that's what comes first, is sort of our friendship and our camaraderie. And I love hearing that from actual siblings, which is just like, yeah, we're gonna be siblings forever. Like Chipper and I are gonna be friends forever. But it's like, hey, these things should be like enhancing our lives. These should be experiences that enhance our relationships, rather than like having to be like, oh, this is where I get into like a bicker fest with one of my best friends. Like, that doesn't sound fun for anyone involved, right? So I just want to like double down on that. I'm like, when we talk about swimrun being one of like the coolest sports, the team aspect is really like a key feature of that, which is why we highlight it every February. But within that, there's just so much nuance and so much opportunity for, to get to know your brother better, to get to know your swimrun partner better, and like find new levels of connection through sport. And it's just great how swimrun tends to do that in our experience. And great to see that you guys have such a great attitude for it, especially because, your three races, your three big races this year, which are, Catalina, it's not going to be easy. Casco, it's, always a challenge, right? And then Worlds, it's going to be like three big lifts, but at least that you can always fall back on. It's like, hey, we're having fun, right?
Right?
Right. Yeah, well, this year I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So 2023, we were totally new to the sport, like very much intimidated, and then completing world champs, we just had all that confidence, and we knew we wanted to get back there. So we built last season around trying to make it back to world champs. We knew we wanted to do it again. So last year was a little bit more stressful, where we were approaching our two races, so Casco and Mackinac, with the goal of trying to accumulate enough points to get to world championships, with the new scoring structure, with the Odyssey races now being under the Ötillö brand. So we wanted to focus on racing last year, and this year the pressure's off a little bit. We just want to really have a great time experiencing these races. I mean, how often do you get to go out to a place like Catalina Island? We're there for the experience, and Casco is just a place that we like to be. And then, there's nothing better in the sport than being out there in the archipelago in Sweden. So we're looking forward to this year, just to really enjoy it.
Amazing schedule. I'm jealous. And
And
I'm sure you
Folsom.
felt this. Yeah. Of course, Folsom swim run. Yes. Oh, you can carpool. We can carpool with us this time. And yeah, I mean, that's a great season. I kind of do the sort of pressure you got into World, so you don't have to worry about, oh, we need to get these races have to go kind of exactly, like you got the slot secured. You can kind of just focus on the path and the journey there, which is the most fun of the process.
Well, this year it feels like we have so much time to prepare after having a month last time. It feels luxurious to have all this time to train.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, this is how Chris and I felt, and we had done many swim runs before our first world championship. But even during the world championship race, like I felt like we were learning so much even as the race is unfolding, because the rocks are different than how they exist in the United States. Somehow rocks are different over there. The trails are different. And it was like and you'll notice this the second time you do it as well. It's like, there's such a bit of familiarity to it, even though, it was 12, 14 months ago, but it does come back to you. It is a pretty cool experience.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're still learning so much every time we go out and do a swim run. And I love that aspect of the sport too, that no race is the same twice. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now that you do have much more time to train for this thing, I know for Chipper and I, like the first time, like we took it super seriously so we could have as much fun as possible in the race. But like the second time we went around, like we still took the training super seriously, but it was like emotionally, it felt like it was like weighing on us more. or maybe I'll speak for myself. It suddenly felt like it was weighing on me more, just to like feeling like I need to perform and just I want to be super ready and kind of learn from my mistakes or where we could have improved from the first year. Are you guys feeling any of that, or are you just not as anxiety prone as I am?
Honestly, I mean, we've only had a little over a week to take it in, maybe just a week
Fair enough.
to
Good
take
point.
it in. So we were hoping on getting back there, but I think the race that I've got some anxiety going into is Catalina, given that it's earlier in the season, it's end of April, so it's going to come up pretty quick. And I know it's hard to train in the winter, no matter where you are, but I'm sure it's going to be a challenging ramp up just to get to that race. And you guys have talked about it, just how it's a beast. So that's the race that I'm kind of looking at is, that's going to be the true test of, how prepared are we? And then I think if we can get through that, then we'll be pretty ready for world champs.
Yeah,
Just a
nothing.
stepping stone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I feel similarly. I'm a little anxious about Catalina. Also pumped to be there. I think it'll be such a fun time. But I think that will be a good indicator for how the beginning of this long training block is going, and we'll see.
Yeah, and I actually think Catalina is going to play to your strengths, because if you can be really smart about your open water swimming,
Yep.
you won't be taking any ridiculous sort of Chipper and Chris lines on some of these swims. You'll be just beelining, which I think you'll actually find a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a beast of a race and certainly some elevation. So run them hills, as they say. But yeah, you guys will be fine. It's going to be great.
It'll be much warmer than where you're at right now, Haley.
Looking forward to
So
it.
you can look forward to that.
Sounds good.
And so beyond your sort of your big races this year, are you guys planning to try to meet up to do any sort of training campy type stuff? Again, I feel like I'm channeling your parents, be like, can you guys just come together and like hang out a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'm planning to come out to California at some point over the summer so that we can get some training in together. Yeah, nothing super solid set in stone yet, but at some point I'll get out there.
Yeah, I think Haley's a little bit jealous of just the great diversity in terrain out here. It's been an amazing time for me training. Speaking of, getting ready for Catalina and really working the hills. It's something that I've never had as much access as I do now. So, yeah, I think it'd be great to do some training out here. Lots of really great trails and places to run, and I'm still looking for new places to swim. So, yeah, I think if we can get some good training sessions together, it'll just make the experience that much better.
Yeah, definitely. And we found that, training in Northern California on the trails translated really well to Catalina. Not that we were faster than any Swedes, but the downhills we could handle a little bit easier than the Swedes from what we remember from several years ago. So we do have that slight
Yeah, that's the
advantage.
only thing
That's the only advantage.
that's the only thing we brought to the table in terms of like, we had something to offer, was us just destroying our quads on that one big downhill.
And then paying for it later, of course.
It's all part of it. But yeah, certainly, and Hunter, it's been great to have you come out to some of our swimmer practices and stuff. And certainly as we're building up for Catalina, we'll be sending you some texts to see if you can make it out for some of our hilly work sessions and stuff like that, because yeah, I mean, that race just requires some specificity, which again, I think Haley, you brought it up, no race is the same, right? So it's one of the cool things about swim run. It's like, yeah, you got to kind of prepare for what's right in front of you, and what's right in front of you is, some pretty gnarly climbing.
Yeah, try and get ready for it. I mean, I think it's so cool how close the swim run community is and how much you've brought people together. The fact that Hunter could move out to the opposite side of the country, like we don't have any family out there. He didn't really know anybody out there and could, train with you guys and have some people, I don't know, that we're supportive. I think that's really cool, both for you guys, but also I just think that the sport draws in the kind of people who would do that, which is really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great email to get from Hunter. Hey, I'm just moved here. And you guys are swim running. Can I join? I was like, please come through. It was
Yeah,
a
I think
great
it
time.
it went something to the effect is like, yeah, what's your cell number?
Yeah, it's like I don't know where to swim around here. Like I don't know how close you guys are. Any tips? And yeah, you guys got right back to me, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, for sure,
You
man.
guys have been super helpful, and we were listening to your podcast, and we based a lot of our gear decisions early on. We really need to get everything prepped in a short period of time for some of those early races, and yeah, so we're all on board for the Adidas TRX. Those are still my shoes of choice, and yeah, a lot of your tips are lifesavers.
Absolutely.
that's
Appreciate it.
well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, we've been trying to get someone from Adidas who designed this shoe on the show for months, and they don't even know. They don't even know that they have this shoe that is just like one of the greatest shoes ever for this really niche sport. They don't even care. I mean, honestly, I just don't think they care.
I don't
Chipper
think it's on the
tried.
radar. Yeah.
We're like going on LinkedIn trying to find some Germans and stuff. Like it's kind of wild that the sport is so niche that some global shoe company just has no concept of how great this shoe is for this particular use case, which is, it is what it is, I guess.
Well,
If
hey,
anyone's
you
gonna
guys,
get that message across.
you guys have a pro model paddle now. Like next step is getting a pro model shoe.
Oh my God.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that yeah, that would be something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that. Yeah. The pro model paddle is great. Certainly buys run rate for the show for a few months, I would say, with the wives being like, hey, look, like we have something to show for this. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys coming on, closing out our partners month this year. Looking forward to seeing you in Catalina, and obviously Haley, if you're ever in town, let us know. We'll take you on trail tours and swim run tours.
Yes.
And yeah, appreciate you both. Happy training and good luck.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z, for swim run resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.
And then